Alrighty, guys. Good afternoon to you all here. It is June 21st, 2025. What a night last night. I want to do a little bit of a weather recap and kind of talk to you guys about some things that happened last night. We just experienced probably one of the worst wind events that we have seen up in North Dakota and in Minnesota in quite some time in that area last night. A lot of different things to break down. We're going to kind of get some new information over the next couple of days, kind of talking live streams over the next couple of days about what happened. But I want to hit on three different things that happened last night. One, forecast overperformed significantly. The moderate risk zone that was upgraded last night at around 8 p.m. Central Time, that rarely ever happens from the Storm Prediction Center. We had a lot of confidence, or a lot of unconfidence, going into yesterday's event, kind of when storms were going to fire off. They fired off early, capping broke, and we had a derecho, in fact, happen across the state of North Dakota and portions of northern South Dakota and into Minnesota, as well as 3 fatalities as of right now have been confirmed from a tornado that hit eastern and central portions of North Dakota last night. A very large tornado in progress last night. Tornadoes were on the ground a lot last night as well, and then we had the wind event. Another thing I want to hint at, a lot of times when you get these wind events, you can get supercells that merge with that line of storms that comes through, especially on the northern side. When that happens, sometimes these bow echoes can develop what's called a mesovortex, or kind of a meso cyclone on the northern side of that line, and this did do that last night. We ended up getting over 130 mile per hour wind gusts reported, is kind of where I've seen maximized wind gusts in and along that line last night, with brief spin up tornadoes on that line. We also, on the back side of the line, as the line came through along that low that developed, that surface low that developed, we had a 954 millibar low. Guys, that is a category 3 hurricane pressure reading. We had category 3 to category 4 hurricane winds last night in the state of North Dakota and Minnesota. This does happen this time of the year. I've talked to you guys about that. We get these big wind events, but the fact that it unfolded last night, the way that it unfolded, was just horrific to watch. We were on live last night for a good 9 to 10 hours. Me and Rochelle were both tag team, and the weather team was on here as well. It was just a brutal, brutal night last night of just destruction across the state of North Dakota and Minnesota last night. I'm glad to hear that everybody else is okay. For the 3 people that lost their lives last night, my heart and my prayers go out to everybody impacted. We had lots of heads up warning times with these storms as well. We were giving you guys warnings out left and right with the times that were coming out. Hopefully we got you guys prepared, but the biggest thing that I'm going to give you guys to take away from this event is when we tell you that there is a storm coming, be prepared. Listen, don't wait last minute to get prepared. Don't say, hey, it might weaken when it gets to me, because that didn't happen last night. We saw pretty much 90 to 100 plus mile an hour winds across the whole entire state of North Dakota last night, and even in western and central portions of Minnesota as forecasted. So if you're in an area and you say, oh, we don't see it too much, we're going to be fine, don't do that, because that's how you get yourself, not on this planet anymore. So just a horrific night last night. We'll kind of talk more about it in the streams as we go through the next couple of days. We still are going to see severe weather. We're actually going to see potentially significant severe weather return again to the same area tomorrow. Hopefully not to the extent of what just happened, hopefully, but there will be the threat for some tornadoes, some wind, and some large hail out there tomorrow across Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, and getting into Nebraska as well. Today, not really expecting too much. Most of our severe weather is already out for today. There's a small chance of severe weather up into the northeast, where a wind and hail threat and an isolated tornado threat will be possible. We'll also have an isolated brief tornado up in northwestern North Dakota for any spin up isolated cells that happen this afternoon. Tomorrow we'll get some severe weather, and then Monday we'll have some severe weather, and then we're pretty much going to stop having significant severe weather for a little bit of time, as we'll start to see zonal flow coming back across the United States. So we're going to break that forecast down for you guys here. I just wanted to do a recap and just kind of say, wow, what a night last night was. It was honestly very, very heartbreaking seeing this happen in real time last night. As somebody that has been doing this for weather coverage for almost 7 years now, 3 years here on TikTok full time, these events happen, and when they do happen, there's nothing you can do other than hope that people are in their safe place listening and knowing what's going on. And last night was definitely one of those nights where you could feel it. You could feel the emotions, even just sitting behind the screen, watching radar, watching things happen, calling out these warnings, and getting people to their safe places. So once again, for all of y'all that did listen last night, I appreciate it. For everybody that does not listen and doesn't take warnings seriously, use last night as a big example on what we need to do when we get severe setups, because sometimes they don't verify and sometimes they do. But last night, definitely one of the biggest events that I've seen in this area in many, many, many years, probably in my 7 to 8 years of streaming. So just wanted to get that out there to you guys. I do want to go ahead and start out with what the Storm Prediction Center has for today. We do have a level 2 slight risk introduced back up here into New York and portions of the Northeast. This is going to be for damaging winds and for hail up to 1 to 2 inches in diameter, 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. Marginal risk outside of that, marginal risk up here, marginal risk here, and marginal risk here for wind and hail, with a brief isolated tornado risk potentially on the table for portions of northwestern North Dakota. Very, very small chance for a tornado. Same goes to UP Michigan and northern Michigan. Most of that will already be precluding later on this evening here. Wind threat at 5 and 15, and then the hail threat at 5 and 15 as well. So not a big day for severe weather today. We won't be doing live coverage or any of that. Big day to kind of just take off. We'll do some streaming today, just kind of talk, hang out, and kind of reconvene with everything. Now, we do get to tomorrow, and we do have 2 areas we need to watch. We need to watch the Northeast tomorrow as well. There is a chance we could get an upgraded slight risk here, so we'll keep that in mind here. But the Northeast, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, east there up into Maine, we have the threat for marginal wind and marginal hail. We have a really interesting setup tomorrow, and some of the models and some of the ensembles, are not ensembles, but some of the supercell composites and some of the graphs that we use to kind of give us an idea of where the risk zones could go to are showing higher risk zone threats tomorrow, meaning tomorrow could get upgraded to an enhanced. I don't think we're going to get a moderate risk zone tomorrow. Just hopefully not at this point in time, but enhanced could be introduced somewhere up here in Minnesota and North Dakota, again, where these areas just got hit last night for maybe an isolated tornado threat or a strong tornado threat or a wind threat or hail threat. We are already looking at hatched risk zones for tomorrow. I'll get to that here in a second, but we do have a slight risk that extends from basically Amarillo, Texas, all the way up into Grand Forks, Fargo, the areas that got just horrifically hit last night. A lot of these areas that are in that slight risk tomorrow hopefully do not see storms, but we'll have the chance for seeing storms. Marginal risk outside of that, we do have a 5 and a 2% tornado risk, so this is just under the threshold of what we saw yesterday. 2% tornado risk back down here into Nebraska, all the way up to Marquette, UP, Michigan, into Minneapolis, Minnesota, Duluth, Grand Forks, Fargo. You guys are in the 5% here. We could see a 10% hatch tornado risk be introduced once again tomorrow if the signal for a capping goes away. Tomorrow is going to be kind of a similar setup, but we're not going to be looking at a big wind event tomorrow. We shouldn't be looking at it. These will be discrete supercells mostly tomorrow for the threat for maybe an isolated strong tornado, conditional tornado threat here with a capping inversion is broken. Once again, we will have a cap tomorrow, so something to be mindful of. We are expecting also the wind threat tomorrow, 15 and 5% there for winds up to 60 to 70 miles per hour in the yellow and maroon. We do have a hatched region for wind up to 75 to 90 miles per hour up here again into northern Minnesota for tomorrow. And then we do have a hail threat hatched as well for hail exceeding 2.5 inches in diameter for Fargo, Grand Forks again. Outside of that, though, 1 to 2 inch diameter hail. So a big day again tomorrow for severe weather. Potentially, we'll be covering this if we need to be covering this tomorrow. Outside of that, ridging will continue with general thunderstorms down in the southeast and the lower Ohio Valley. We get to Monday here, and we have another risk zone on Monday. This is mostly going to be a damaging wind event here. Not expecting a lot of tornadoes with this. Mostly a damaging wind threat on Monday with a hail threat and an isolated brief tornado threat. Slight risk in the yellow there from Marquette all the way down to portions of eastern Iowa, and then getting into a marginal risk outside of that there. And then we really should start to see severe weather start to really ramp down here over the next couple of days, especially as we get closer to the July 4th holiday. We will see isolated to scattered severe weather episodes across the United States in some areas where instability is at, where there's kind of some dips in our jet stream could be at, but we're really going to lose a lot of our troughing after Monday. So that'll be some good news in terms of what we're going to be looking at going into really the July 4th holiday here. So just something to keep mindful of here. I do want to talk about what we're going to be looking at here, and I just want to keep something in mind. This is what's called CSU. I show this sometimes when we have probabilities for higher risk zone upgrades. I want to show you guys tomorrow's setup here. So right now we have that slight risk. We can see we do have a chance for maybe even a tornado outbreak across Canada tomorrow, but a higher risk for tornadoes potentially on this model run. It's a model, but a higher chance maybe for tornadoes in higher portions of northern Minnesota and eastern North Dakota again tomorrow, maybe getting up into Canada. Wind threat also potentially here, so we could see some upgrades to our risk zone if that does in fact, if the scenarios tomorrow change. So just kind of something to be mindful of as of right now. Not set in stone yet or time to flip out or anything, but we'll keep you guys updated on that. Here's kind of an idea of what's going to happen today. We could see an isolated shower or storm later on this evening here across portions of northern North Dakota. Not expecting much with that. And then tomorrow it's all going to be dependent on cap. If we can get storms to fire off down here in this area, which some of the models have, some of the models don't. Once again, it's really about the day of and what happens on the day of, not the day before. But if we do break capping again, we could see a couple strong storms out there with the threat for tornadoes, maybe some strong. That's EF2 plus, wind over 75, wind up to 90, potentially hail up to 1 to 2 plus inches in diameter in some of these areas. Just something to kind of be mindful of. The model, the HUR model specifically here, struggled with yesterday's setup all the way to about 3 hours prior, and then it just blew up and everything verified on the HUR yesterday pretty much. So something we have to watch. That's why we always watch models leading up to the event, even though sometimes they may downtrend or uptrend. So just something to be mindful of. But scattered supercells could be firing off tomorrow afternoon along the North Dakota and portions of Minnesota and Canada line. Something to be mindful of there. And then we could see a couple cells fire off down here in Nebraska. But just an area to watch tomorrow. We will have all ingredients in play. Strong tornado parameters. Instability will be there. Dew points will be there. Kind of the same setup tomorrow, but just is the cap going to break? So we'll have to see if storms can stay updraft rotation wise potentially, as well as keep their updrafts and then, be able to fight through a capping inversion tomorrow. So something to be mindful of. We'll keep you guys updated again with this. And then through Monday, we should see some scattered showers and thunderstorms back down into Iowa and down into Oklahoma and then back up north into Wisconsin. So not a lot there. Now I want to talk briefly about what our overall weather pattern is going to be here going through the beginning of the end of this weekend and into next week here. We can see in our upper level trough here, this is what's going to be giving us today and tomorrow and Monday's severe weather threat. High pressure system dominating down here in the southeast, the Ohio River Valley, keeping it hot, very, very hot with temperatures here. our heat indexes outside here in Kentucky are about 108. So it is ridiculously hot outside. I ended up running a 5K this morning, and it was brutally hot and gross. Survived, but a lot of fun and not a lot of fun at the same time there. But regardless of that, high pressure system will dominate the eastern half of the United States through much of the week here, continuing to see troughing. We'll see one more little trough advance here on Tuesday and Wednesday, but mostly what's going to happen after Wednesday is we go to what's called zonal flow. This will keep most severe weather out of here, see some general thunderstorms, some spurts of severe weather potentially where there is a little bit of wind shear, but other than that, we shouldn't be seeing these big widespread severe weather days anymore. Maybe we see a return to severe weather potentially in the high plains going into next weekend as we approach July, but even that's a little bit uncertain right now, and then we kind of get more towards these zonal flow mesoscale days again as we go towards the 4th and, first week of July here. So just kind of something to be mindful of. One more thing I do want to talk about, guys, is going to be those temperatures. Those heat indexes out there are going to be scorching. Make sure you guys are staying hydrated. Make sure you guys are drinking water. It's going to be a pretty long week here in terms of the hot temperatures here. If I can get this model to load, it will potentially load. That would be great. We may not get this model to load today, so I'll show this later on in the stream this afternoon. But regardless of that, it's going to be a very hot week. Drink water, stay hydrated, guys. We'll keep you guys updated as always. Be safe, be weather aware, and we'll see you guys in the next one.